Kimberly, can you call roll, please?
President Willis Matt.
Here.
Vice President Richard Lindsay.
Here.
Secretary Nat Combo.
Here.
Treasurer George Seifert.
Here.
Trustee Lisa Middleton. Trustee Carrie Nicholson.
Here.
Trustee Larry Williams.
Here.
Okay, we'll take a moment, our customary moment of silence. Larry, can you lead us in the pledge, please?
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, can I have a motion for the approval of the agenda, please?
Move for approval.
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, members of the audience may address the board on agenda items only. Okay, seeing none, we will move to academic highlights.
I know that we have on the first up would be the kindergarten roundup with Hughes Elementary Principal Matt Lefebvre. Sadly, Matt has taken the flu bug, I think, over the weekend and into this today. In fact, Hughes had a hit of flu with the kids there as well. So
we're having a late season rush on flu, I can tell you.
Yeah. So I can see you're haggard by all that. So he's going to postpone that, and we'll come back at it another time. So for now, the spotlight goes on the Marshall High School's Red Hot Chili Bots, Coach Steve Seifert, and his team members, along with the support gallery in the back.
So I'll spare you how I acknowledge when we're announced on the field, because I lose my voice all the time.
Okay.
But yeah. So we do have a presentation. This is our robot. I'll let Rain start us off. And what's that? Yeah, you can. You can. So one of the things I'll draw your attention to, and they will again and again, is we did finally, 6 years into our program, we ended up walking away with our first blue banner.
Hello, I'm Rachel. I'm captain of the Hot Chili Bots this year. I'm a senior. Then introductions. Next slide. Introductions. Everyone on the team, except for name, what your job, and your age.
Hi, I'm Lainey. I'm a senior and I'm head of the graphics.
Okay, Lainey.
I'm Izzy. I'm a sophomore and I was doing scouting.
I'm Larson. I'm actually an 8th grader who's been invited to join the team, and I'm a programmer.
My name is Connor. I'm also a programmer, and I am a junior.
My name is William Chadwick. I am safety captain of the robotics group.
I'm Chris Weaver. I do CAD and SolidWorks.
I'm Andrew Kiesling. I'm a senior, and I'm a builder and a welder.
Very nice.
I'd like to come up and thank our sponsors, especially Consumers Energy, who just joined us this year. I'm going to hand off to Connor.
We doing the video?
What?
Do we have time for the animation? It's like 2.5 minutes, or do you want just a verbal walkthrough? Which do you prefer?
Anytime you ask me if you want to show me your gadget, I'll watch. So go ahead and give us the
Yep.
Let's do the animation.
This is how our season starts.
This is just going to explain the game for this year.
Nearest the scale and in each alliance portal. At the start of the match, the plates of the scale and the switches are randomized. During the first 15 seconds, robots are autonomous. They work to cross their auto line and place power cubes on the switch and the scale. Alliances who successfully own their switch to gain ownership for the longest time, earning points for each second of ownership. Human operators behind the Alliance Station wall collect power cubes from the exchange. They can deliver them back to the robots through the return or to their vault. In the vault, power cubes may be traded in for 3 power-ups. Alliances choose when in the match to activate each power-up to gain a temporary advantage during the match. The forced power-up gives an alliance ownership of their switch, the scale, or both. The boost power-up increases scoring for 10 seconds for either their switch, the scale, or both. And near the end of the match, Levitate earns one member of the alliance a free climb. Other alliance members climb on their platform. If all 3 members successfully climb, the alliance can face the boss and gain an additional ranking point. The alliance that earns the most points wins the match and defeats the boss.
Good deal.
Yep.
Is this me? Okay. Okay, so this is the field for this year, and so as you heard, in the first 15 seconds, it's autonomous. So our robot like drives on its own, and so in the first match, we decided to just cross the auto, so that gets us some points. And then for the second qualification match, I wrote some routines to put a cube in either of these switches here. Unfortunately, we ran out of time and I couldn't complete those, so we just crossed the auto one. And then in Teliop, for the first competition, I guess, we tried to do it all. We tried to put it in the switch, we tried to put it in the scale, so we tried to climb. But for the second match, we just put blocks in the bowls.
Okay.
Results. Our first competition was in Gibraltar, which is by Detroit. And like Larson said, we tried to do everything. We originally had a shooter that brought it to the top. We didn't get the climber configured in time. And we were kind of all over the place. We ended up playing defense and not taking advantage of our working driver. And that left us winning 3 out of 12 matches and in 37 out of 38th place. Our second competition, we learned and we changed our strategy. We understood that we have to do what we can do best. So we used our grabber and we filled the vault almost completely, like for most of it. And we won 5 out of our 12 matches. But that caught the eye of the first seeded alliance, and they picked us for their second pick. So we were on the number 1 seeded alliance with the first and second ranked team. So it's kind of funny, first, second, and 31st, but. And we won the first 2 qualifying matches, the first 2 in the quarterfinals, which made us the first team in the semifinals. And then we won both of our semifinals match, which made us the first team in the finals. We did not win the first match of the finals, but since it's 2 out of 3, we won the other 2, and we won.
Right. And this was all the same people, the same robot. We just changed our strategy and changed our attitude towards the game. Wow. There's a lesson learned. That's a lesson learned. Yeah. Good lesson learned. Yeah, good. I'm also the photographer, so most of these pictures.
Yeah.
I like to take credit.
So it's been 6 years, Steve, since we've been doing this.
2013.
It seems like there's very similar tactics for the robot in the design, but it seems to get a little more complicated in the expectations in the game that goes on. Is it ramping up a little bit on the intensity of it?
I think things are getting harder. I think climbing is hard, but once you understand it, torque wise, how much motor you have to put into it, it's relative. It becomes easier. The hardest thing, we have climbing ability. Where we had trouble, where's our scissor hook? Well, where we had trouble was you have to get that hook up to the top. So this was our second apparatus, I've got it tied. But we built it, but we just didn't have the time to go test it, prove it out, make sure that we could, you know, go up to the team and say, oh yeah, we can climb, you know, on the alliance. So we just didn't get that far.
I think as the games go on, the strategy has gotten harder. Because this year there were 3 power-ups, and that hasn't happened in previous years, so we had to choose strategically when to use the power-ups, how to build them, which ones were most important.
We said what Rain is saying, we said right away, this is not a mechanical game, this is a strategic game. Your strategy is what's gonna win it. And then we went off and built all this wild stuff, or tried to, and came back to strategy. You know, if we can fill the ball, and that's what we ended up doing. It's simple. The simplest job on the whole course is to take a cube from here, turn around and put it there, but it fills that vault. It lets you levitate, it lets you double your points, it lets you claim points, so it gave us a lot of opportunity. But the other teams that could score up on the scale, they did that work, we did this work.
Right.
They wouldn't have won without us,
Right.
But, you know, we got pulled through, but we were observed, we showed our stuff the second weekend that we can go do this, and we got picked. Whereas we could have done that the first weekend, but we didn't put ourselves in that position, so.
Is this the first time you've had 3 teams working together? It seems like in the past it's been teams of 2.
No, it's always.
Is it always 3? Okay, I didn't remember that.
So for next year, we plan to restructure our team into 3 different sub-teams. As you saw previously, we're currently divided multiple teams. We have a software team that does programming, we have a mechanical team that builds the robot, we have a marketing team, so on and so forth. But for next year, we want to structure our team into 3 main teams, each with a mentor leading each team. We want to have a robot team that does mechanical, electrical, actually building the robot. We want to have a game team that manages the strategy, figuring out what we need to do with the robot. And then we want what we call the GPO team, where graces professionalism and organization. So this is product management, marketing, communications, spirit, so on and so forth. We also want to do over the summer some projects to help build, train, and so on and so forth. We would like to finish our current robot. As you saw, there's a couple of parts we didn't get working, so we would like to get those working down to the robot as practice. We also want to write some software to predict the outcome of matches based on previous matches using a neural network, which is like an artificial intelligence. We're also thinking about building a solar panel farm, so we could say that the Red Hot Chili Bots is a solar-powered team. All of our electricity needs are met by the solar panels. We also want to design our pits, which are the areas in which we, between matches, work on a robot. We want to have, design our area, because it's quite a small area. Figure out where things will be placed, and also make it look nice, so other teams have some nice look at. We also got a robotic arm last year from another team that was broken. We've repaired it, but we would like to do something with it. It's like sorting parts, something else.
So before you move on though, I just want to tell the board, stand by for that solar panel. Consumers Energy is, and we were talking with our new sponsor, and we both laughed. We think we can do better than the tribal casino. All their solar panels are all facing cattywampus. We think we can track this on a little better. But yeah, but it would be a great project for the kids. We just have to find the real estate to be able to do it. I don't know if the board would let us on the roof or what, but we'll talk.
Yeah, we'll talk. All right.
Just the holes through the roof.
Something else we want to do over the summer is the whole training workshops to help train incoming students in robotics things, I guess, so that when the season comes around, they're ready. We would also like to recruit better from our current FTC teams, and we also want to recruit from the student body for this. We would also like to send some of our FRC students here to go work with the FTC teams to help them out during their season to help mentor them. We also want to do more community outreach. We want to identify more opportunities where we can reach out to the community.
And I would open this up to ideas that you may have. I get contacted by OFON for hospitality classes, and we do that. But are there other opportunities that you can see where these kids could?
You've been to? Weren't you at the Festival of the Forks?
Well, yeah, Festival of Forks and the
Turf tables.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Keep doing those
Think
local
about it,
things. It's really important. Yeah.
Okay, so they didn't want me to talk until now, but I squeezed in. So one of the things that, what you've seen in our plans, we can do most of that. We can't approve building a solar farm and all of that, but community service and things like that, we can handle. But we've started, Nisha is in the back here, she's FTC coach, and I've talked to Don Beck about getting STEM into the curriculum to try to build the FLL, the elementary program, and also there's a junior FLL that's K through 3. They don't build a robot, they do a show me poster, but they still have to go through the same engineering method and figure out how to solve a problem. Great opportunities, and from the FRC, and I think the kids will agree, there's benefit to the FTC program for us because they come already knowing what needs to be done, and they already know the cadence, and FTC doesn't have that. So they get 6th graders coming in that don't know what the program is, but if they came out of FLL, then they benefit as well. We've talked about this, and the concern is getting the curriculum across all the schools before we start trying to build a first robotics team. But I'd like to start working on it. It's not gonna happen tomorrow. It's not gonna happen maybe next year. But the stuff that we can work on for next year, we will do. But this stuff, I'd like to start a conversation with the appropriate people to see how do we go do this. It's gonna involve more people. It's gonna involve more volunteers. We gotta go identify those people. But I think there's a great benefit to it. Kids love it. Middle school kids, they left their meeting to come here. So, you and I are gonna sit down sometime, and I'd like to find out what steps need to be taken, right?
Well, it's certainly aligned with what we want to do as a district, so we'll have to put the details behind it.
Cool. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Yep. That's our winning,
This is the team from Filter.
yep, team picture at Gull Lake.
Wow. Excellent. I'm so sorry I missed that event. We were texting back and forth.
I was
trying to get-
texting you as fast as I can, and then all of a sudden he says, wait a minute, I don't understand, where are we? Just banging up, so I had to back up,
Yeah, I was following you guys from afar, but I'm very proud of what you guys do, and we're all very proud of the middle school program and the high school program.
Thank you.
Good job. Congratulations.
Thank you for all this.
Well done.
Any questions?
Any questions?
I have one question. So you showed us the video that showed what the game was and that. How much time do you have from when you get that to your first competition?
6 weeks.
6 weeks.
We have 6 weeks to strategize, plan, and make the robots. But we usually have a room and then a viewing room, and then we take the day and we strategize for the entire day.
Okay.
And we get pizza and food. It's a lot of fun.
At the risk of saying this publicly so that our competitors out there might come up with the same idea, we do Kids Day at the fair every year. Just before school starts, it'd be wonderful to have the robotics team represented there.
Okay.
That would be.
That'd be really cool.
Absolutely. So the Kids Day, I participated a few years ago as a Boy Scout. And we were there a couple years ago putting on demonstrations. And I think they had a vacancy and they just wanted to fill, and they gave me a call. but absolutely, work with you and set up our robots and FTC.
Yeah, it'd be great. We have
put
a
on some demos.
we have a kind of a confined area, but I think we could do something with that. And
Sure.
having young people come through and young children and see that would be really excellent. Or you could do it over by the bus.
A lot of the times when we demonstrate, we let the kids drive the robot.
Ah, yeah.
And they always have a lot of fun with that.
Would you let me drive it?
Like, no, it's
They don't
not
let me
right
drive
now. They don't let me drive it.
Sure, anybody can drive it.
That's great. All right.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Anything else?
Congratulations.
Congratulations, thanks a lot. Good job.
Good work.
We also brought a box of buttons that our team designed and handmade, if anybody wants to put.
A lot of the teams at competitions have buttons in their pits. I have an entire lab coat full of other teams.
That's one, everybody take one.
This year and last year. Yeah. That was last
You know, every year the team gets bigger and bigger.
It's cool. It's fun watching it develop.
It is fun watching it.
It's coming. It's coming.
Very cool.
Well, they're not all the same.
No, there's some, like, I think there's like 6 different ones in here. There's 3 last year.
So this is your team. Thank you.
You want one of those?
Right here. Very cool. Thank you. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
Carrie was telling her that this is the best year they've ever had. And it's the first year where 50% of the people were women.
Oh, really?
So there you go.
Coincidence? I think not.
Correlation.
Okay.
Okay, we should move on. Consent agenda. We have our minutes, disbursement, board employments, and then our school of choice resolution. Anything you wanna, any background you wanna give on any of those, Randy?
Just a G, the adoption of the school of choice resolution for 2018-19 is required to accept applications for non-resident students who reside within the ISD, the CISD, and contiguous intermediate school districts for enrollment. And so that's what's in front of you, and it's the recommendation of the superintendent that the consent agenda be approved as presented.
Move for approval.
So moved. Support, really.
Discussion. I think you go through the hires a little bit later, more background on them.
Yep.
Anybody have any questions or anything? Okay, we'll start with Larry.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, we're gonna move to the report of the superintendent. Special recognition.
Sure. I'm going to start with the new hires. Mary Davis fills the position of library technician at Marshall High School. Ms. Davis is a graduate of Lansing Community College, where she earned an associate's degree with a major in elementary education. Excellent. Carrie Vogel fills the position of bus driver in the transportation department. Ms. Vogel obtained her GED through Homer Community Schools. She is behind the wheel, and she's rocking it, doing a good job. Ariel Osterhaus fills the position of special education teacher for Hughes and Walters Elementary. Ariel is a Marshall High School graduate. She attended Spring Arbor University, where she earned a bachelor's degree with a major in special education. And David Ward fills the position of technology specialist in the technology department. Mr. Ward is a graduate of Springport High School. Very good. Congratulations to all of them.
Yes.
All right. Next on the special recognition is the Calhoun Area School Board Members Association, or CASMA Annual Award Ceremony. The CASMA Award Ceremony will be held on April 25th at Harper Creek Community Schools, beginning at 6 p.m. Those being honored include our own Annette Campo, 10-year service award. Hot darn. Tony Warren, Professional Award. Blaine Van Sickle, posthumously for the Citizens Award, and the board supported that unanimously. Thank you. Lorraine Mayer, posthumously for special commendation. So please make sure that your reservations are in and we can all join and celebrate Annette and recognize Blaine and the other award winners. And now I have the good fortune of introducing our newest Eagle Scout in the area. Let me go up to the podium. Josh, you want to stand up, please? Eagle Scout designation, Joshua Stanley Kilborn. Recently earned the rank of Eagle Scout in the Boy Scouts of America. He is now a member of an elite group of young men that attained this prestigious rank. The work he put forth to earn the required merit badges, coupled with his demonstration of the Eagle spirit, or the Scout spirit, through the Boy Scout oath and law of service and leadership, are all skills and qualities that will serve him well into the future. We have a copy of his statement. We also have this nice card for you. Thank you very much for your participation. Congratulations. Thank you. Appreciate it.
It's incredible.
A little applause for this young man. Would you like to tell the board a little bit about your community service, your Eagle Scout project?
Yes. So my project began around late 2016. I came into the city wanting to kind of formulate some ideas for this. I really wanted something that was attainable, yet would kind of pose a challenge to me, because I wanted something I could look back on and be like, oh yeah, you know, I did that, and just feel a sense of accomplishment for that. So that brought me to Brooks Nature area, and through the help of contractors and local businesses, and of course my fellow scouts and scout leaders, I developed a restroom facility out of Brooks Nature area. As they, until this point, do not have any restroom facilities out there. So now this gives the opportunity for school groups and like recreation activities and other large groups to come out and enjoy the facility and nature area and attract more people out there.
Well, great.
Fabulous. Very cool.
Excellent service.
That's wonderful.
Any questions for this fine young man?
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Okay. Wrap my pen up. Administrative contracts next on the agenda. We have renewals on administrative contracts. Right now we have a building administrator position posted for Gordon Elementary, and we'll be looking at internal candidates first, and we have 7 candidates that have asked to be considered. So we'll be beginning that process very soon, and hopefully have a candidate selected before we get through the year, and then move forward with that. Right now, Linda Bennick is doing her lion's share of taking care of Gordon, as she's always has. And of course, she's going to be involved in this process as well. So we're real excited about that movement. There will be we have a couple new administrators, so they're going to roll over and continue to work on their progress. And then we have a number of principals that will be added to or given renewals for the 2 years. So that's kind of where we're at. Pretty solid about the process that we have with school advanced evaluation process. As much as I enjoyed that with you, I know it took a long time, but I think it was a much more rigorous and robust process. It's the same process that we're having now with our administrators, although they only have 4 constructs they're looking at as opposed to 12. So it's all working out good.
Leadership team reports.
In your package, you have quite a large chunk of leadership team reports. What I'm enjoying, I hope you're enjoying too, is you're seeing a lot more pictures and students and adults engaged with our schools in really good ways. So hopefully if you've read this report, do you have any questions at all that you have? And
I had a question.
Or a comment?
Yeah, I had a question for Brad, actually. The note about the roof repairs at the high school, was that any of our new roofing? What's the age, and is any of that under warranty, or what happened?
Modern roofing from Grand Rapids, it's under warranty for especially the stuff that we repaired a few holes on the would be the music area roof.
Okay.
So yeah, generally a new area. They were it's a very thin layer, rubber flat roof. We found a couple of dime size holes. No idea, how they get up there, but they had one that had leaked into the choral music room. Found that there were a couple other flashings around, which is like the issue we fixed at Hughes earlier this year. Just some flashing issues where it fails, the glue fails, or whatever. So we got it. Well, right now we're the last two things at the high school that have been. They fixed one over the educational wing that was right in the middle. Again, a dime-sized hole. You don't know how it could be ice that caused it. Where that was. We're working on the smoke vents at the auditorium. One set doesn't seem to fit right, and CSM is working with the people who installed that to get that. On really heavy, windy rains, you can tell where it drifts in, not a lot. And then there's one spot on the back wall that we're trying to figure out where the water comes in. It's never been more than a couple of cups, but we're getting pretty close to being totally buttoned up there.
Well, it looks like you've been busy from your report. As far as the kindergarten roundup goes, my other question was, is there going to be testing in Albion? It sounded like on Paul's report that maybe testing wasn't going to happen.
Yes, there is going to be testing.
Is there going to be? Okay.
Right.
They're doing the testing on May 2nd, right, with the registration. They're going to test the students too.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, and then they do it the same night there.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for that.
Also, you noticed in the board reports, M-STEP is starting to ramp up. When we come back from spring break, by the time we get to the third week, we'll be into the M-STEP window. That's going to last for about 30 days. Everybody's going to be wrapped up into it. I think the middle school did a nice job of outlining all of their targets and the objectives that they have on the M-STEP and the work that they've been doing to prepare for that. All our middle schools or elementaries will be into that right away into April, in the middle of April. So that's going to be a hectic time to get all the testing done, and it always is. We want to encourage that all the parents support their children and make it an important thing for them to do and to do their best shot at performing well. It's very important. We just had a clarification from Michigan Department of Education that it is not permissible, quote unquote, to opt out of the testing procedures because it has a direct and negative impact on the district as far as the number of students that participate versus how many should have participated.
You mean individual students cannot opt out?
Individual students cannot opt out. So we're asking that parents understand that and they encourage their kids to participate.
Are some schools trying to opt out of using the M-STEP? Did I hear some on the radio or not?
Oh, that's been it's come up once in a while. I'm not sure MDE allows that to happen though.
I heard something when they were trying to.
Anything else on leadership reports?
Back to the top of the agenda, sir.
We're on discussions.
Thank you. Bids being requested for lawn care.
I just wanted to let you guys know that Brad is putting together an RFP for all the buildings for lawn maintenance, and so we'll be going out to bid for those and bringing those to you next month for approval. So.
Okay. Do we have any new Do we expect that we're gonna get new bidders on those contracts, or are we just gonna go back out through the same group we've been dealing with?
I think that we request people to bid it. I mean, many people call and ask if they can bid it, so we send it out to people who want to bid it. I don't think that necessarily we've done many different contractors in the past. We've kind of picked a contractor to do Hughes in the middle school and one to do Walters in the high school, and so I think we really need to sit down and decide if we want to have one contractor that does it all, so that we're not trying to call many contractors, but.
Boy, they'd have to have a lot of capacity to be able to do that. We've got 8 different locations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I assume there's some economies of scale if we go with one, right, as far as our cost?
Yeah, so we'll have to check that out. We do have a contractor locally that can do all of the buildings. So we'll just have to see what the pricing is. Typically, it's better pricing for the district to do a couple different contractors, so.
Right, so stay tuned. Next is review of existing bonds.
So I wanted to have a leisure conversation about our bonded indebtedness, and you know, we've done these bond refundings where we've saved over $6.5 million in the past 3 years, and we thought that we were being conservative when we put that we would have 1% property growth here in Marshall.
Sorry, guys.
Die.
So I wake up in the middle of the night, sorry.
That would do it.
So I should clarify, I'm just talking about Marshall's portion of the debt, because Albion has their own portion of the debt, and their debt will be paid off in 2021. So I'm just looking at Marshall's share, and right now we are at 7.05 mils. And when we costed out everything, we had about a 1% property growth value in them. And Marshall, over the past few years, if you look at 2017, we saw a negative value in our property growth, and then the 0.61 and then the 1.84. And so what is happening is we're not seeing any growth in order to maintain that 7 mil that we were looking at. And so we obviously haven't gotten the property values out right now, but we're looking at increasing the millage to 7.33 from that 7.05. And if you see, it's increasing going over the years, and this is just at it's 0.25% value growth now, since we've taken it down from the 1 because we just aren't getting the growth there. So a couple options that we could do, I think, that is the school bond loan revolving fund, which ends up costing taxpayers a lot of money in interest. So where our bonds would be paid off in 2033, as you can see here, if we went into the school bond loan revolving fund, which is the yellow, it would then take us out to 2034 because of the interest. So I just wanted to, I mean, it's not good news about our bonds. We've done all we can do in doing the refundings and saving the interest and stuff, doing them, but our property values just haven't increased at what we thought that they were going to. So this year we're looking at the 7.33 instead of the 7.05. But it could get better, it could get worse based upon how our property values come in here, and we won't know that until May. So I kind of wanted to just have a discussion about it to get it out there.
So this this underscores the importance of why we're involved the way we are with MEDA, LDFA, the community partners in the Marshall and Albion community, actually. But primarily the Marshall community in regards to property values, because we don't have growth if we don't have new economies being built, we don't have new factories coming in, new businesses coming in, more investment and increased housing. We're gonna have a really hard time maintaining ourselves over a long period of time. And this is why we're totally committed to seeing us advance ourselves in that way.
So if we hadn't refinanced, it would have went up
Yes.
more quickly and it would have gone out longer, right? We
Yes.
shortened it, okay.
Yes, I don't know how many years we've shortened it from, but I do know we've saved over 6.5 million to the taxpayers.
I believe we shortened it by at least 4.
I was thinking 4 or 5, but okay.
Possibly more, but we did save a lot of money over the life of the bond. So this is hopefully a short-term situation, but I'm a little discouraged about the negative property value increase.
How much leeway do we have? How much can we change that mill rate? Are there parameters within which we need to work, or?
We need to be able to pay our debt payment, and so it's a cash. So they will tell us how much based upon the 7.33 what we're going to get in for our debt millage and the cash that we're going to get in to pay the payments for those. And we don't carry a lot of cash, and for last year we were able to maintain it at the 7.05 because we did have a little bit of the extra cash in those funds, but we aren't going to have it this year, so we will go up to the 7.33 unless property values increase higher than what we're expecting. So that when I bring the 4029 and I bring that in June, we'll be able to see where that's at. So I might bring it back in May once we get the documents from the county on what the property values are, just so everybody knows where we're at and what we're looking at.
Any other questions?
Keep our fingers crossed, right? Okay. Thank you. Okay, we're gonna go to action item curriculum and instruction, approve STEM class for MOHS. You wanna read the background for us, Ryan?
Sure. A request has been received in the Director of Curriculum and Instruction's office seeking approval of a STEM class for students at the Marshall Opportunity High School. The board was presented with the recommended class at its February 12th, 2018 work session. Information about the course has been available for public review in the Director of Curriculum and Instruction's office. The board is now being asked to approve the class and its curriculum. It is a recommendation of the superintendent that the action item curriculum and instruction be approved as presented.
I entertain a motion.
Support.
Discussion. There was a presentation we had in February on this. It sounded really, the info's in here again, but it sounded like a great opportunity for the kids, so. Good stuff.
Yeah, that's a good stuff.
Questions? Okay, we'll start with Carrie.
Yes.
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 Thank you. Move to action items financial, approve election resolution and set ballot language, and approve purchasing 2 buses for the district and leasing 2 buses for transporting Michigan Youth Challenge Academy students.
I'd like to take both of those separately if we could, because they're so dichotomically different. True and Law Firm PC has prepared a resolution calling for a special election and setting the ballot for the August 7th, 2018 primary election. The ballot for the August 7th election will offer Proposal 1 that asks school district voters to renew the 18 mills of the operation of the school district for a period of 10 years, 2019 to 2028. The current 18 mill levy approval expires at the end of the school fiscal year, June 30, 2018, and must be renewed in order for the district to continue operating. The 18 mills levied on non-homestead and non-qualified agricultural property will account for nearly
$4,120,000
of our estimated
$16,773,000.
State aid for fiscal years 2018-19. It is important to note that this is a tax levy renewal, not an increase, and that principal residents and qualified agricultural property are exempt from this levy.
What was our time period on previous ones?
Shall we have a motion and then come back for discussion?
I make a motion to approve the language.
Support.
Thank you. George?
What was the time period previously? This is a 10-year, right?
How long was it?
So
5?
I think we did I think we did 3. It was 3.
It used to be 1. and then went to
It was,
3.
we used to do
Went
1,
for
then
a
we
while.
moved it to 3, and then we had done, the sinking fund went to 10 too. The non-operating homestead is part of that $7,631 that we get. So we get that total, so the state gives us whatever we don't get for the non-homestead, or what they would assume that we would get from the property values of the non-homestead, so.
This is,
Go ahead.
when we did the annexation with Albion, they rolled over into the adoption, or into our 18 Mills non-homestead for the rest of the duration of that period, which is now expiring in June 30. When they did that, this will be the first significant vote that all members of the now new Marshall Public Schools District expanded to cover both Albion and Marshall. So this will be an important vote, and there will be a lot of work that needs to be done just to make sure that people get the same messaging that they've always gotten about non-homesteads and why this is an important support for the schools.
So is there a move to longer periods? Because I fully support that. I just hadn't seen it before.
Yeah, it's quite a jump.
I can think
Actually,
of
there.
other ones.
What would you say? Do you know anything about the average of how long these millages go?
Typically, these are 10-year millages. You can go up to 20 years for them, just because they're kind of like a millage that they just assume that districts will always get because it's part of that. Right. They say that amount. So I've been in school business for 8 years, and when I came here, it was the first time that I had to do one of these. I mean, typically they're out 8 to 10 to 12 years. They're out there. So,
And is there any more problem passing these? I mean, what's the history? I mean, when you go from 1 or 3 to 10 years, does it make it harder to pass? Do you think, just because people have more trepidation about such a long-term commitment, or not?
I think that's going to be in the eyes of the beholder, Georgia, but I think we have to explain that to them. I mean, the 18 mills have been, you've been paying 18 mills non-homestead for ever.
Right.
Well, because
It saves money on election costs. I mean, there's several good reasons to do it.
Absolutely.
Oh, I fully support it. I just
I know,
it's so short.
but I'm just saying that I think individuals realize that that's around. There's even legislation being tossed around about this 18 mills non-homestead and whether that should be a continuation or something different in the structure of school finance. It's just what we need to do, and I like it because it's an accountability to the public and our taxpayers to some degree. I just don't like it if we have to do it over and over again when people don't understand the messaging behind it. So it's important for us to try to pass the first time.
Just countywide, about every 2 years, a district doesn't pass one of these. They immediately pass it at the next election, but it's some kind of message, and it's just part of the formula that we have to pass to operate. So it's not an increase, and there's no change.
Yeah.
Do we know in what was previously the Albion district, what the history was with passing these? I mean, since we're sort of taking on a new...
Do you recall ever one being voted down, or you having to go back a second time?
I can never recall it being voted down.
Okay.
Yeah, back to when I started at the county, I don't remember Albion ever having an issue.
Now, individual
Public
townships have
did.
had issues of whether
Public
they've
did a
actually
couple
passed
years
it or
ago.
not. But I haven't seen the whole district have that problem.
And what happens if you don't pass it, besides having another election?
Have another election. and
You
another
have to
election.
You set off the siren when you said that.
Exactly that.
George jumps into action. Die.
Oh, I'm sorry. What is that?
Becky?
you have to continue to try to pass it, but if not, we will lose 4.1 million of revenue. Because the state will not make us whole. They assume that we're gonna have that revenue off our property tax base. So if it doesn't pass, we lose that revenue.
So instead of like 7,300 some or so per student, what would that put us at?
I didn't calculate it out.
We would all go into panic mode and
Yeah.
go to every single meeting until
Yeah.
until it passes. That's what
We do a
happens
lot
in
of
other
nothing.
districts. Yeah.
But it does speak to, get some talking points. All of you as board members understand where we're coming from with that. Make sure that you're out talking to your constituents and folks in the taxpayers in the district. Make sure they understand it's non-homestead, not primary homes, that type of thing. We'll get some good talking points behind it so you can speak well with it.
And our last one passed 2-1 at the same time the state had the disastrous amendment to the Constitution for the roads. If you remember, that went down horribly in ours. I was watching the returns thinking, oh my gosh, but we didn't have any problems.
Swept up in that, yeah.
Yeah.
And it still passed.
People clearly knew to vote no and vote yes. So.
I think it's great that we're going every 10 years. I mean, I never understood the 1 year at a time thing. But
Doreen Van Sickle, thank you.
I inherited that, by the way. It's not something I created.
I know.
Just saying.
You know, the Marengo Township clerk just call me up every time there's an election. I don't make these decisions.
Any other questions or discussion? I think we are at George.
Yes.
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 Okay, and now we're gonna move to B, which is approving purchasing 2 buses.
Becky, you want to read the background on
I would
this?
love to. It will be necessary for the district to replace 2 buses in its fleet and to replace 2 buses jointly leased with MYCA that will be coming off lease. 3 school bus vendors were contacted and invited to bid. Only 1 vendor responded with bids. The bids were received from Midwest Transit. The Director of Transportation is proposing leasing 2 2008 77 passenger buses from Midwest Transit at a cost of $14,995 per year for 2 years, and purchasing 2 2015 U18-274 77 passenger buses due off lease on July 2018 at the cost of $48,274 each.
A motion,
Move for approval.
Support.
discussion. This was brought to us last month, I believe,
Yep.
and we had discussion on it that month. Anybody have any questions or any further discussion? Okay, we'll start with Annette.
Yes.
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 Okay. Going to move to action personnel. Accept superintendent's performance evaluation results of highly effective overall and extend superintendent's contract. I'll give the background on this one. On Monday, March 12, 2008, the board met in closed session as requested by the superintendent to conduct his evaluation. The board finalized his evaluation in closed session. Based on the results of the annual evaluation of the superintendent is eligible for a contract extension of at least 1 year through June 30th, 2022. Any changes to the superintendent's compensation package contract will be considered at a later date or later time.
I'd move for approval. Do I have to say at least 1 year?
Support.
What's that?
Do I have to say, he says at least 1 year?
It says of at least 1 year. Yes.
Okay, so that's the recommendation of 1 year. Okay.
Correct.
That's my motion. Sorry.
Approve, support.
Okay. Discussion. I would just say I think we spent a great deal of time that night going through. It was a new evaluation process, school advance. Am I getting that right?
That's right.
I think actually we enjoyed the new process. I think it gave a lot more structure for you and for the administrators and everybody to know exactly what the goals are, and it gave us more opportunities to really measure it. And
It was a good process.
Randy came in with a stack about yay high of
A little bit
support,
higher
a
than
little
that.
bit higher. Yeah, because George had to go through it by himself.
Yeah. It's a big pile.
But I thought we had great discussion as a board, and you know, the end result was great. So anybody else want to add anything to it, or?
I've been through a couple of those here in the county, and I think that was the best process I've been through as far as recognizing what you wanted us to review you on, as opposed to us having some set of ideas and you having some separate set of ideas. So I thought it was a really good process.
I think it was our longest meeting yet, too.
It sure was.
It was.
Did we go till 11?
4 hours.
11, yeah. So that one's
3 hours and a half with me and a half hour of
And
deliberation.
he did not bring us pizza.
Next
I
time
know
pizza.
pizza.
Next time pizza.
I was not schmoozing. Thank you very much for your work and the efforts that you put into that. That was a long process, but I think we all agreed that it was well worth the time. And from both what I learned from that and what I'm sharing with my administrators, as well as what you were able to glean from us and what I'm doing and what the district's moving forward with. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, comments? I think we're at Richard, right?
Yes.
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 Okay. Move to board professional development, student engagement.
Yeah, excuse me. I wanted to talk a little bit about student engagement. We have 3 primary focuses for this year, rolling into this year and then next year as well. One of them is student engagement, one of them is positive professional relationships with students and students with each other, and the other one is student ownership of the work that they do. This comes at a time that is particularly important for us to discuss because of the recent incident where we had a staff member arrested for allegations of misconduct with one of our students. To that, I thought it would be important for us to not only review a few policies that are in our policy book, but also I want to make a recommendation on a couple additions I want to add to an administrative guideline in regards to the way we take care of student welfare. Okay, when we talk about student engagement, we're really talking about student engagement in their world of teaching and learning, and in their world of instruction. And a lot of times we focus a lot on positive relationship building, so kids feel engaged and connected and cared for by the teachers that are in charge of them, and the administrators also in the building. And the better they feel connected and engaged, excited about learning, I think, well, I'll get to that in a second, the better they're going to be motivated to come in and do the work and set their goals, take ownership of what their growth areas need to look like and how they're going to advance, what kind of help they need and all those types of things, truly engaged. Recently, last Friday, I'll go back about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, we had 2 middle school students come in, one from Marshall and one from Albion, who are friends of each other and wanted to talk to Dr. Randy about something. So Kimberly let them come into my office and we had a good discussion about student engagement. And their point was to say, they have a lot of friends that they've known, that they've grown up with, and are kind of struggling in the middle school, and they wanted me to know that. They wanted me to know that these are good kids. These kids really are intelligent kids. They just need to feel connected in a different way. And this was coming out of the mouths of kids, so I had to take advantage of that, and I said, let's do a procedure or process or activity called the fishbowl, and let's have you and your administrators identify 9 or 10 other students or 8 or 9 other students to come in and sit in a circle with a number of teachers that you feel that are really doing a good job with engagement, that are connecting with you in a positive way, that as one of the students said, that cares more about me as a person than just academics and discipline. And so as we did that process, I facilitated it, we put it on video. It turned out to be really great. I can't wait to see the edited piece. We had the students be the production group over in our green room in the middle school. And we're gonna have the production crew, the student production crew, and Hope, who coordinates that as a teacher at the middle school, do the editing. And so when I come back next week, I should be able to pull that up and review it. My intention of that, and I told the kids, I said, this is going to be important because we want to hear from your viewpoint what you think your role is as a student, what teachers think your role is as a student, what do you think the teacher's role is, and what the teachers think their role is, and how do we put the two together to be able to enhance a positive, nurturing, effective learning environment for kids, where kids feel connected. One of the comments made during the video was, she said, one of the teachers said, I know that you're engaged when learning in my classroom is more important than the drama with your friends. And all the kids are going, mm-hmm. They were on a level where they could actually really play off of each other and ask for clarification or recognize that what was being said and it was accurate. And the bottom line was the 3 teachers that they identified pretty much unanimously go out of their way to connect on a person level that understands what happened the last 12 hours since the last time we saw them and what their life has been like, or last 16 hours, what their life has been like, and what they're coming into the building to start their day with, and what kind of support do they need to be ready and available for learning. So I'm hoping that videotape becomes an instrument that we play to our kids in the middle school so they can hear that message. I want to be able to play it to not only our middle school staff, but I want to play it to all of our staff in the organization. So they hear from the kids, the give and take with adults about what it means to feel connected and engaged. I think it's good timing for that, right? Along with that, there's a couple things, and you know, Neola's coming up with a review of new changes in the policies. I'll be doing that, I think on the 11th of April. So some of these things get updated, but we have a couple of significant policies I want to bring your attention to. In particular, the guidance and counseling policy 2411. It talks about our staff's responsibilities, the professional staff's responsibility outside of the counseling role. It does talk about the counseling role. But for us as teachers or us as educators, what do we do when a student comes up and shares information with us and it's of a personal nature that needs to be having a helper that's professionally trained to be able to help that situation out? It's not incumbent upon us to just jump in and try to problem solve. It's incumbent upon us to listen carefully and be available for what the student has to say, to try to do a little bit of triage, but primarily to think about, okay, what are the next steps? Who do I need to get involved with this child to be able to continue this on? And usually then that goes to our first line of support, which is our counselors, and then our second line of support, which would be outside resources to be able to come in and help the student out. And so that's outlined generally in guidance and counseling. The one, though, that I want to speak to primarily is 3213, student supervision and welfare. Policy number 3213, and if you remember the way it's laid out, policy 1000s is about administration, policy 2000s is about programs we provide, policy 3000s is about our professional staff, and policy 4000 is about our support staff that also includes coaches, right? Okay. So I'm going to pick on 3213 because that's most germane to the conversation we're having. As you go through the policy, really the devil's in the detail and the liability for staff for student welfare. And this is the administrative guidelines. What I'm proposing that we do is I'm going to make these changes in the administrative guidelines, and then I want to share it back out to our staff, and then I want to share it back out to the parents and guardians of all of our kids in the district. Because I think while we have the policies and administrative guidelines online on our website, and you can look up anything you want, you can put up teacher-student relationship, and it'll bring up anything that kind of coincides with that. And you can look at all those different things, whether it's forms or administrative guidelines or policies. But it's not the same to make sure that everybody's on the same page about what our rules of engagement are. You know, what are our guidelines that we talk about for all of us, support staff, coaches, teachers, administrators, the whole 9 yards. So there's one section in here in the liability of staff for student welfare, and it says that each professional staff member, 1, should not have students unattended. 2, should not have an unqualified person in charge of students. 3, should accompany students wherever they are assigned and remain with them until supervision is assumed by another responsible person. I want you to reflect upon what your experience has been in schools, right? A new one I'd like to add is should not meet students one-on-one in isolation or areas of limited access. I'd like to add should not transport students without prior approval from their direct supervisor, which is already in a couple of other policies, but then add and not in a one-on-one situation to make sure we have 2 adults or 2 people that are accountable for that process. The next one is should ensure students do not use non-district owned and or maintained equipment or other equipment which may be potentially dangerous, or use facilities of equipment except for the intended purpose. Next one is should organize classroom materials and equipment so as to minimize danger of injury to students and the staff. As you can, you can think about integrated applied arts, but you could also think about biology and chemistry and different things in phys ed and the whole 9 yards. The next one though that I would like to add is should hold every student accountable to be where the student is assigned within their daily schedule. So what we're finding, and I received some feedback from a concerned parent, and he did a nice job of outlining some observations that he had in the midst of this conversation and these issues that we're dealing with law enforcement. And he said, I've noticed some casualness about some of these expectations. I've noticed that, and it's been my experience, I'm sure it's been yours, that when you develop relationships and positive relationships with staff and you look up to them and so forth, and you become familiar to the point where you become casual. And casual doesn't work in a professional standing. And we always have to hold our professional relationships firm in what we expect, but also nurturing and what the kids need to hear from us in regards to encouragement and being involved and engaged. And so there's a fine line with that. But a lot of times, I know when back in my day in high school, because I was a wrestler and I was a good student, I used to get a hall pass to go down to the weight room and lose weight for an hour in high school. We used to have those practices across the board. We probably still do. And what we have to do is take stock in ourselves and say, wait a second, this is a professional situation that we're going to ask everyone to raise the bar and make sure that we're holding each other accountable to the process. Now, there's some things that people say, well, that makes it impossible for me to do my job. Well, we're not saying that. We're saying that if you're not seeking supervisory approval for transporting a student, yeah, that's going to be an issue. If you find yourself in a one-on-one, you need to work yourself through that one-on-one to a public place, and then make sure that you're not having a pattern of doing that before that becomes an issue. Okay? It's to protect our employees, it's to protect our students, it's to make sure that we maintain that level of professionalism that we need across the board without losing the personality and the flavor and the feeling that we have within our school system. So it's a close line, but that's what I wanted to let you know. Those are some of the things that we're moving forward with, and I think it's going to be well received. We're going to not let people get too rigid about how is that going to be interpreted. We're just going to look for what we always look for is patterns, themes, responsiveness, and adhering to board policy and administrative guidelines. You guys have any questions at all about that?
So I guess from a practical sense, like if my child had problems with his clarinet and needed to meet with the band teacher to figure out what to do with it, and maybe there's other kids around, I mean, something like that where you're dropping off your instrument and talking with them and then going on your way is not so much of an issue. It's like if you're the only student staying after for band.
Yeah.
Where's the line, or even like in the library, if maybe one kid went down to check a book out and nobody else was there besides the librarian, and how strict is?
Well, there's places that you clearly have an expectation of privacy, and so you don't want to get yourself in a position like that. When you have open classroom settings, you have doors opened, there's no limited access to classroom or to library. People can come and go. I mean, you have to use your common sense with that level. If you're scheduling something after school, one-on-one with the teacher, parents should be fully aware of that. The administration should be fully aware of that. I would prefer that not be done, but if it has to be done, it's got to be done with full transparency so that everybody's aware, and not a pattern.
Right. I think that's the key, is patterns. When we've had issues like this in the hospital, it's always looking looking, I think the pattern says it. If this happens once and the door is open, I think those are critical things. There's open access, and you make it as public as you can. I think we would support that. When there's a pattern, that's really where it's scheduled on a.
If you find a pattern and you've already approached the professional to say, you know, okay, we weren't aware that you were having these kind of after school things. Let's not let that happen again. And if it continues, then that's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah. So it can't be. You're right, because I was thinking the same thing. It can't be too restricting, but that doesn't mean someone can't come down and see what's wrong with their clarinet, rather than with closed doors on a regular basis.
And I think what's really key is that parents and guardians take the responsibility seriously to understand these, so that when they may see something that doesn't fall in line with these guidelines, they should ask questions. They should contact the administrator. They should say, my child's been brought home individually by this coach 3 times in a row. I'm not sure, how can I help change that? Obviously, I'm not over there to pick them up. What else can we do to make this arrangement? I mean, there's things that we can do and be reasonable and common sense about it. But I think if just everybody has a good awareness and we maintain that level of professionalism we're expecting, we should have no problems.
We should. I think the other thing is to characterize them as guidelines. People always, forget what guidelines are. Guidelines aren't prescriptions. No. And they're not procedures, they're guidelines.
It's absolutely not absolute.
Right.
So it's got to be much more flexible than that, but it is guidance. And if people don't pay attention to guidance, then that's a red flag for us.
Any questions?
Thank
so
you.
any of those changes will come back to us for official approval?
You don't need approval on guidelines.
Okay.
You need approval on board policy, so those will come back to you if we make any changes there.
Perfect. Thank you.
Are we gonna get to see the video?
Yes, absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Okay. We'll move to public comment. We ask that anybody keep their comments to 3 minutes or less, please. Okay, seeing none. Board member comments for which no action may be taken at this meeting.
So I guess I'll ask you a question. I saw something on Facebook, I think Harrington put it out about the kindergarten roundup in Albion, and a couple different people in Albion contacted me when Concord sent postcards. I don't know if it was to the entire Albion area. I did not get one in Marshall, so I don't know what exactly they finished.
You actually got postcards from Teconcha and Union City.
I haven't yet, but they're coming here.
Yeah,
okay.
They're coming here. And
so
Concord
we're not planning to do that at this point.
I'm
not advocating that we should. I've had a number of people ask me. I'd like to be able to respond.
Well,
to
actually, we just had a meeting and we're talking about a communications and promotion plan. One of the things I asked our colleagues around the contiguous district of the new expanded Marshall is to work with me in regards to common bus routes, and not to come into our communities proper to pick up kids on a door-to-door or inside the city, in particular inside the city limits of Albion. That we could do some common drops that we could all agree would be a good spot both ways. That's been honored by 1 out of the 4. With that, I don't feel any allegiance to have to maintain the concept that we're not going to be communicating out what our district has to offer. Am I going to target? No. But the surrounding, the zip codes in which we operate in are completely open for us to go ahead and send mailings out to those zip codes. And so I think we'll probably continue that practice and see what comes out.
It's disappointing to see those fires now. So
it's sort of an unfortunate reality.
Yeah,
it is an unfortunate reality. But again, we're being very cautious not to go into other people's districts with our buses and things like that. We're being very cautious about that. Any other questions?
Anything else? Okay, can I entertain a motion to go to executive session, or executive closed session?
So moved.
Support.
I think it starts with me, so yes?
Yes.
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 We'll go into my office, okay?
Hey, Bill, I need 2 signatures from you,
So we
please.
can do that fairly quickly.